Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for March 17th through the 23rd. This week is about renewal and initiations. So this week we are shifting into Aries season, finishing up Pisces season. Happy birthday to my Pisces and Aries people. Of course, this means that we have the equinox this week, and especially important and very present this week is that we are at the midpoint of eclipse season. We're in the middle of the pair of eclipses. We can think of eclipses as sort of like these markers or these two pillars that we walk through, which initiate. And when I say initiation, I'm thinking like an event, an experience, a journey that is transformative and that also has this feeling of moving through a gate or a threshold from one area of experience into another that is inherently transformative, meaning that there is something that will never necessarily be quite the same, that there is this inner experience of transformation. And of course, sometimes that's an outer experience as well. So we're going to talk all about those things, and a little more of other things that are happening this week in the astrology. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so honored to share the astrology of this week with you from a depth psychological perspective. So, okay, let's start at the beginning here. So, we have the sun moving into Aries, and whenever the sun moves into Aries, this also tells us that there is an equinox, because the equinoxes and the solstices, they coincide with the sun's movement into a cardinal sign. In this case, it happens to be Aries. But first, before that happens, we have the sun moving through Pisces, and then the sun will encounter Neptune. And this is very important because I think of this as like an intensification impact of what it means to experience the sun moving through Pisces at that last tail end before the sun transitions from Pisces into Aries. Now, I do want to say, I think that we're also holding that there is this background landscape of the eclipses throughout all of this, and this is especially so because we're talking about the sun transitioning from Pisces to Aries, and we have our first eclipse of this season, which happened on March 13th, was in Virgo, so it inherently includes the Virgo Pisces axis. And then our next eclipse that we're going to talk about next week is the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. That's happening on March 29th. So there's a lot of activity in this area of the sky. So what this means is that there is this continued experience, this continued journey of this transformation, initiation, this like what can feel sometimes like a rapid or unexpected transition of new things coming in, old things falling away. We're also in the midst of a Venus retrograde as well, which I'm going to talk more about in a moment, that also is inherently reflective and has us possibly reflecting on the past as well. And Venus, of course, is in Aries, so it's like all of this is very active at this particular point. Okay, I digress though. So we're kind of holding that there's this like transformative, what I think that eclipses can sometimes have a feeling tone of them that is both synchronistic and mystical, as well as feeling a bit unstable, because this is the nature of transition and change. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking it can feel sort of like in Tarot, the Six of Swords moving on, or in the tarot, the Tower card of like change and transition, and both of those have a different kind of tone to them. One of them feels a little more shocking or dramatic or chaotic, and I think that there can kind of be this mix depending on what's happening in your life. Um, so, uh, so within that context of transition and change, we have the Sun making a conjunction to Neptune as it moves through this last part of Pisces. So Neptune is in Pisces, so the Sun, any planet moving through this area, is conjuncting Neptune when it moves through Pisces. This may look like an intensification or a more numerous events around synchronicities, this feeling of like being in the flow, being in the right place at the right time, or I don't know, maybe like you're like, wow, did like all of these pieces had to fit together for this event or this meeting or this situation to take place. And of course, that always happens. But I think this week in particular, when we have Sun Neptune, there's an extra sense of charmedness or synchronicity or like even mystical experiences around things. We can think of this as the veil that is like a membrane between our experience of the physical reality versus the unseen world that is softened and diffused. So there's more possibility for feeling into the future, feeling into the past. Again, of course, whatever that means for you in your concept of the world, etc. I think that there can also be this sense of reconnecting with your vitality, the Sun, via something that is maybe a little unseen or mystical or energy based Neptune. That, of course, could be spiritual practices or mindfulness practices or connection with your own inner world, your own inner experience, having more of a sense of contemplation, introversion. And then what else did I want to say about this? Yeah, so like really this like taking the past into the present. And I'm saying that especially because this is on the heels of a South Node eclipse, which is inherently more connected to the past or history or feelings of familiarness. So, like bringing something that has been your past experience into the present, whether that is something that you want to transform or something that you want to integrate, that it is this something that you're taking from your history that's coming into the now. And so this Sun Neptune connection is Monday through Wednesday at the beginning of the week. And then Thursday, the 20th, is when the Sun moves into Aries. And so I think that this is a moment where there can be a very striking contrast from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even I would say, frankly, like the last month or so with the Sun in Pisces to Thursday, the Sun in Aries is a very different energy. Pisces, Sun with Neptune, it's very like ethereal, ambiguous. There can be a really beautiful time of being these more flow, creative, unknowing states. And Aries is this cardinal fire sign. So it's about starting new things, about initiating new things, about beginnings, about taking action, about connecting with passion and the desire to do something now immediately when the inspiration strikes. There's this energizing tone to Aries. And so, yeah, I'm curious how you feel like in this, early in the week versus later in the week. Of course, this depends on what's happening in your life and your personal natal chart. But in general, it is this striking contrast where I think that Thursday forward, and then, of course, the whole next month, there is this feeling of like, okay, like let's get going. There's a little more oomph, a little more energy, a little more um, capacity to like really I think Aries is so decisive in the moment, and um, Pisces really just like is kind of like in the experience. Like, yeah, this is, yes, this is the essence of it, is that Pisces is so experiential, and then that really slows things down. Um, and Aries is so much like Aries is also very in the moment, but it's about the action versus the experience. And so, um, what I will also say about this transition is that the sun in Aries means that we are having an equinox. So, the equinoxes happen twice a year. We have two of them. One happens in Aries, and then the other one happens in the sign opposite Aries, which is Libra. Uh, and then, of course, we have our solstices in Cancer season and Capricorn season. So these signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, in the chart, they create like this cross. So there's like a polarity here, and then there's a polarity here, like up and down. How do I say that? Horizontal and then vertical. And so this moment, the equinox, is a component of the quartering of our year, this like dividing our experience of time into a certain chunk, into a certain segment. And the equinox in Latin literally means equal night, because it's connected with this time where we have equal, for the most part, equal days and nights. And then there is this transition of the nights becoming more long or more short, depending on the hemisphere that you're in. Um, the equinoxes are always connected to either the ushering in of springtime or fall time. So in the northern hemisphere, where I am, we're moving into springtime with this particular equinox in March. And then in the southern hemisphere, you all are moving into fall time with this particular equinox. And so there is this quality of within equinoxes in general. So, like outside of the whole eclipse situation, the equinox is also this period of transition, of um, like pausing. I think of equinoxes as like pausing at the threshold, pausing to say, okay, like how far have I come? Where am I going? Where am I now? It's this very like orienting yourself in space and time. And I think that, of course, we can also look at this theme of equal night, equal day, this equalizing, balancing symbolically as well. We can look at um, where you may feel in or out of equanimity, out of balance, and uh, what it would look like for you to bring in more of the life giving energy that feels really good for you, that does feel harmonizing. And I will say that, especially for those of us that are really interested in our own personal development, whether that is in a way to improve our lives or our relationships or our spiritual practice, there can be this, I think sometimes this expectation that you should always be on it, that you should always be doing the things that you know that are good for you. And that if you for whatever reason, slip back into something that maybe doesn't feel good, or is like paradoxically um, self defeating or self destructive in some way, that means that you've fucked up, that you've done something wrong or bad, and that you have made a mistake. And I think I think that like way of viewing it is so connected to, at least in like in the US and Western culture, our like puritanical roots of like not like that it's not okay to not be okay, that it's not okay to make a mistake, that there must be this sense of completion, mastery, like checking something off and then being done with it and never returning to it. And like, I don't know about you, but in my experience, that life doesn't really work that way. We're constantly circling back to the things that we are working on in our life. And of course, we can look at our birth chart, especially things like maybe Saturn or Chiron or even our moon placement, to understand the um, the themes, whether those are relational, emotional, boundary themes, self care themes, like physical stuff, whatever it is, we're constantly spiraling through and revisiting the things that are maybe um, challenging or that need a little bit of attention and care from us throughout our lifetime. And so I think that the equinox is a really beautiful time to assess and to say, like, okay, how, and of course, as always, saying this to you as well as myself, how have I, like, how have I forgotten something that that is really crucial for me to remember, um, like whether that is forgetting, um, and I'm saying this especially because I'm really connecting into this symbolism of the sun, and the sun being a symbol of the ego being that like part of us that is like, this is me, I am this, like this cohesivifying, if that's a word, this component of the psyche that helps us to orient around who we are, and that is so connected to our vitality, our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual vitality. And so with the equinox, and I think frankly many other transits of the sun, we can say, okay, what am I orienting around? What do I want to draw in? What do I want to release? And also, like, what do you notice about where you're drawn naturally, organically, and what is there for you? Okay, so that's the sun, Aries, equinox, etc. So also we have a lot of themes involving the sun this week. So also this week we have the sun conjunct Venus in Aries. And conjunction is always where two planets are together at the same point in the zodiac. If we looked out in the sky, we won't be able to see this in this particular case, but we know, because we have the zodiac, we know that when we go outside and the sun is up in the sky, that Venus is right there. It's like super duper close. So this means Venus is literally invisible at this point in time. And of course, we take symbolic meaning of that as well. This is where Venus is sort of melded in with the sun. There is this melding together, this like they're interacting with each other at a very intimate level. And in this case, this is the sun, our vitality, our ego, our sense of inner strength, and that thing, that spark that animates us. And Venus, which is a symbol of relationships, our experience of beauty and aesthetics and pleasure and joy, and then also themes of self-worth, sometimes finances. So the sun conjunct Venus always happens at the middle of the Venus retrograde process, and so there's a term for this when the sun and Venus are conjunct. It's called being in the heart of the sun. Sometimes it's called being in the chariot of the sun, and there's a very benevolent connotation to it. It's sort of like the sun is bringing Venus in, and there's this sense of renewal and revitalization for Venus. Also connected to this transit is the theme of the underworld journey. So Venus's retrograde is very connected to this, the mythological motif of going into an underworld journey, going down into the depths, having an intense but often clarifying or renewing or initiatory experience, and then ascending back up. And so this is inherently a part of this Venus retrograde that we're experiencing February, March, April. And this point when the Sun and the Venus are together, there is this sense of inner renewal, of re-energizing, revitalizing. This can often feel like, I think, sort of an inner experience. It can sometimes feel like having a sense of clarity or having a sense of like a change or a shift in your awareness of something. I think that we could also think of this as like really seeing into the depths of your relational patterning or your relational dynamics. And so, yeah, I just, notice what you notice. This transit is happening essentially Thursday through the weekend, when the Sun moves into Aries. And I really like this for you. I think that there's a lot of, just this like sense of renewal and like inner re-energizing that I feel for you. And then in accompaniment with this, the Sun and Venus in Aries are also making a sextile to Pluto. So this is a subtle, soft, more like optional, easy to ignore transit. But it's this opportunity for healing, for growth, for also going deeper into experiences. And so I think that Pluto adds a little extra boost for doing some of this more, like we could say also this is very much like a shadow work sort of aspect where it's like looking at the things that maybe are uncomfortable but important for you to consider or to think about or to reflect on in your life. I do want to say also, I always want to say a lot of things. So also in this equation is we're keeping in mind that Mercury is retrograde right now, and Mercury and Venus are very close together. They're within like 3-ish degrees. And so this is also Mercury, Venus, Sun together. And so there's also this component of the like logical mind, the story making mind, and our communication process is also getting this like little dose of renewal. And I think that Mercury just adds like an extra contemplative component to this. And so I don't know, this may look like you having conversations about relationship dynamics. It may be exploring this with yourself or with others. It may be more internal, maybe more external. But I think there's also kind of this like working out, and it may look like reframing or like re-narrating some of the storylines that you have about yourself or about others or about your relational dynamics in general. Okay, so last thing that I'll say here about the astrology is we have our last quarter moon in Capricorn. This is happening Saturday, the 22nd of March. And so this is the lunation point between our full moon lunar eclipse on March 13th, which was at 23 degrees of Virgo. And it's like here this week before next week when we get to the new moon solar eclipse, March 29th at 9 degrees of Aries. And so I think that there's also this component of like being at the crossroads, being at the middle, being at this like place of contemplation. Now that we probably have like a pretty clear sense of maybe what this eclipse initially is about for you. Like some of the themes have probably already come forward, some of the experiences. Um, and then before there's this additional influx, this additional wave of energy, there's this point of the last quarter moon tends to be about reprioritizing, about it's not letting go in a sense of like detox or like cutting ties necessarily, but it's kind of more of like a letting go in the sense of like discerning how you want to focus your time and energy. That's really what this lunation is about. And you know, there may be a lot to there may be a lot on your mind, there may be a lot to address, and I think this last quarter moon there might be a sense, like over the weekend there might be um, a sense of clarity on what you want in on your plate in your arena right now, and the things that maybe just not that they're not things that you don't want in your life, but it's like, okay, just not right now, maybe, possibly. Okay, so I'm going to pull some tarot cards for you. But I have some, let's see, do I have reflection questions for you? I usually write them down, but I didn't today. So what's up with that? Why did I not do that? If you're not already on my email list, I always include the reflection questions and like notes about the astrology that I've talked about. I always include that in my weekly email newsletter. So if you're not already, you can sign up on my website, theastropsyche.com. And also, I would say if I'm gonna like, let's see if I can feel into three that feel good in this moment. You let me know. I think that number one would be what are some synchronicities that have happened over the last week or two? And I don't know, maybe you're like, Shauna, there's no synchronicities. I don't know. It's like there's nothing. You know, just like ask the question. Notice where have there been either synchronicities or what dreams have you had, or just kind of like feelings. So like the thing. Okay, this is I'm going to digress for a moment here. The thing with the synchronicity is the way that the psychoanalyst Carl Jung defined it is that it's basically this external event, something happens, and then there's a feeling of that means something to you. There's like this internal experience of like, whoa, like that was meaningful. And we don't always know what it means, but there's like this feeling around it. It's an internal experience. Frankly, I think that synchronicity could also simply mean omen. I think that Carl Jung drew a lot from like other methods and models of the world, and I think that he could have very easily used the word omen. Um, Anyways, that doesn't matter very much. What I'm saying is, um, it doesn't have to be anything like big or striking. It's just like this feeling that there is something that is important or sort of like odd or peculiar. Again, it could be dreams that you're having. And I don't know, maybe you have a dream, maybe you intend to have a dream. Okay, so that's number one. Just notice, contemplate, like really ask yourself, what are some possible synchronicities that have happened last couple of weeks? Number two, how are you feeling about the balance or balancing of your life right now? Maybe where does your life feel in or out of balance. And like, this is super important too. Like, we're really asking this not from a fixing place, like, not from like, okay, that means I have to do X, Y, and Z. No, no, no. We're just like noticing, where do things feel like maybe they're in or out of balance? And that does not mean that you need to jump into action necessarily, but just like sort of feeling into what is what is happening now, and letting yourself be with that and what that's like for you. Number 3, I would say, is how do you want to honor this transformational phase of your life? This like eclipse portal of this month or so of the month of March. How do you want to honor whatever transformation you're going through, whether it is simple and minor or something more extreme? And when I say that, what I'm imagining, possibly, always see what feels good for you. What I'm imagining is maybe you want to many different thoughts are coming into my brain at this moment. I'm just going to throw them out there for you. Maybe you want to have something like a physical object that reminds you of something that's important to you. I don't know, maybe it's like a little trinket, like a little piece of jewelry, or something that's very small that you can like even carry in your pocket. Maybe this honoring for you takes form in a some sort of ritual, possibly lighting a candle, saying a prayer. Maybe it's cleansing your home, like doing a refresh in your home, whether that is like clearing things out or using incense to cleanse out the home. Maybe it's doing a collage. Maybe it is waking up at sunrise, or if you're in a place where you can see the sunrise or the sunset. I don't know. Like, it's not about what the thing is, it's that it feels meaningful to you. And this is sort of like invoking that sense of the synchronicity, like creating the sense of meaning in your life. How would you like to honor what is happening for you now? Okay, that feels good. So let's pull some tarot. So I'm shuffling my my deck, and I invite you to get into a place that feels comfortable, relaxing for you as much as you can in this moment when you're listening or watching. And if it's comfortable and safe for you to do so, you can close your eyes, or you can focus on something in front of you that feels soothing. And then imagine yourself contained within a beautiful sphere of light. This light can be any color that feels good, but it's very vibrant and bright, and it's moving through your body and also around you as this protective, revitalizing force. This is also a beautiful space to call in the presence of your spiritual guidance team, ancestors, angels, whoever or whatever it is that you have a relationship with that feels like a protective, guiding presence. Ask that they're here with you now to protect you, to help you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand right now. Okay, beautiful. And then draw your focus into your heart space at the very center of your chest. And from this place, maybe wondering or a question or an inquiry arises for you. And if you like, you may pick a number between 1 and 3, and that card will be special to you. Okay. Okay, so we have a repeater. I'm pretty sure we pulled this last week. And I'm using the same deck as last week too. This is The Wild Unknown by Kim Kranz. So first card is the Six of Pentacles. And so of course, so interesting that this is repeating. I'm not quite sure what that may be about, but let's kind of feel into it together. So this card is so much about reciprocity, about giving and receiving, about the reciprocal transmission of resources. But I think that it can also be about like resources are not always money. Resources are not always physical, tangible things. There are emotional resources. There is emotional labor. There is emotional currency. There is energy, labor, currency, etc. And so when this card comes up, it for me tends to be about the topics around generosity, giving of your not necessarily like your resources, though I don't know, maybe that resonates for you, but sort of like giving of yourself and what you have to offer. And that there is this magic that happens when we share the things that we have that are that we want to share, that are also needed by others. That like that's that kind of like reciprocity, and the like co-collaborative impact of giving and receiving. And so I don't know, like you tell me what what maybe comes up around this card as it comes up in this first position. So of course this is very Venusian. The in this card, gosh, I didn't say. So in this card, the imagery is this plant branch with leaves on it, and then there's all of these little tiny baby pentacles that almost look like seed pods that are connected to the plant. And so, yeah, like actually, gosh, I'm just like really feeling into this imagery of the pentacles looking like seed pods. And so, like in seed pods, there's all of this potential there. There's all of this potential for new life and new growth, and that will be transmitted, that will be spread around the earth. And so, yeah, there's something here around giving and like feeling. Also, I want to say, I'm just thinking in this moment, you know, sometimes there can be a withholding of ourselves, like our energy or what it is that we have to say. There can be a withholding or holding back, not because we are not generous, but because there's like a fear that it won't be received. It won't be whether that is like feeling like maybe someone won't see you or will reject you or won't appreciate you, or you know, whatever the case is, or that it'll be weird or whatever. But there's something here around encouraging the sharing of yourself, maybe, possibly. Okay, so and then yeah, like and then asking for like asking, I think saying asking for help, that feels like a little reductive, though I think that certainly is a component of this, is like asking for help, not just being the one that's the giver, but also being the one that is comfortable receiving. Um, but like allowing others to share with you, allowing like so that you don't have to be the one that um, this may or may not be your experience. That's why I'm pausing. So, like, if you are always in a position of being a caretaker or handling things or like jumping in, maybe like softening that and allowing other folks to jump in and to do the helping or healing or caretaking. Okay, the second card is the Nine of Cups. And this is a really, I think, like such an encouraging card when it comes up. Nine of Cups tends to be about emotional satisfaction, emotional satiation, like this having a lot of emotional resources. So it's very interesting that it comes up when we're talking about the Six of Pentacles. In this card, in the image, there's nine cups that are in sort of like a horseshoe shape with the opening of the horseshoe at the top, and then at the top there's a crescent moon there. And there's all of this like really beautiful blue and sort of purpley lines in the background. And so, yeah, like this card, there's something here around um, satiating your emotional needs, your emotional desires, having a sense of like, this card also feels very like grounding to me. And it's like, okay, like I can relax. It's kind of the feeling of this. Like, I have the things I need. I'm okay. You're okay. Everything is okay, is kind of a part of the feeling of this card that I'm connecting in with at this moment. Um, and when I'm thinking back about the Six of Pentacles, it feels like the six of wait, am I saying yeah, six? The Six of Pentacles is kind of like this wondering, like, is it okay? How is it okay? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it too, the Six of Pentacles feels very much like the equinox energy as well, this kind of like finding a back and forth that feels harmonious, that like seeking balance. And then with the Nine of Cups, it's like, oh, okay, like there's this feeling of nourishment really with the Nine of Cups. And so there's something here about when that sense of um, equanimity is is held and requested, expected, like asked for, when that is named in whatever way is appropriate for you, given what you feel and given the situation, there can be this like real quenching of emotional thirst. And then the last card here is the Star card, which is also really sweet and encouraging. Both the Nine of Cups and the Star card, I think, are very encouraging and ask us to connect with our sense of hope and optimism. So the star, gosh, this is so funny. I think one of the keywords of the star is like renewal or gosh, uh, I keep wanting to say a different word, but the word renovation keeps coming out of my mouth. So I don't know what that's about, but regeneration. Yes, that's the word, regeneration, with the star. Um, and in this particular deck, the image is, of course, of a star, this like big, beautiful rainbow watercolor star with a bit of a black gradiated background and then all of these little white stars behind it. And so there is this brilliance to the star. our sun is a star. Like the star is so much around brilliance and seeing and re-energizing, and this there's such a component of healing to the star as well. Healing in a way where it's like there is some sort of vitality or energy that is restored again. And so when I'm looking at these cards together here, there's it's sort of very interesting because it feels like we begin with a card that's very practical, the Six of Pentacles. It's very kind of like connected to, it feels very like mundane, real world, day to day kind of energy to me. And then the Nine of Cups is this like, you're okay, it's okay. You have the resources that you need. And gosh, I just feel like how important that is when it feels like everything in the world is not okay or chaotic or unsafe in a variety of different ways. And so I think as I'm feeling into this too, I think the Six of Cups can really speak to this sense of community support or like relational support or like being like connecting with the people or things or situations that you know that you can depend on, and remembering that and remembering those, whether that is something external that you can depend on or something internal that you can depend on, and then finding this sense of emotional security within that. And of course, depending on our level of privilege and marginalization, that's going to look very different for some of us rather, for some of us rather than others of us. And I think that I'm just really feeling how the Six of Pentacles speaks to our sense of interconnectedness and interrelatedness, whether or not it is apparent. And that we could take that internal as well, that we could say that there's the structure of the psyche is so interconnected and that there's this give and take and this pull. And so when we become more aware of the connections and we try to find a sense of synthesis, there can be this this cultivation of emotional safety as much as possible. And then from that, there's this the star, the sense of renewal, the sense of hope, the sense of optimism, even if those happen just in glimmers or moments of time, and that those are there. And I think it's very encouraging that there is the star here, that um, there is something hopeful to connect into again, even if it's just this little glimmer, something that is, very far away in the sky, so to speak. Okay, so that's what I have to say today. Thank you so much for being here with me and for listening or watching. I am wishing you a most easeful and safe and like vitalizing, refreshing, renewing week. Yeah, and I will see you next week.